10 people.
All right, welcome everybody. Today is July 25th, 2019. Welcome to your weekly Kubernetes community meeting. Bunch of bad luck with GopherCon and the Open Source Summit happening. However, we are going to have a demo and some updates today. First, we're going to have a demo from Gareth, who's going to show us OPA. Then Guinevere is going to give us the release update, and then SIG testing is going to give an update. Both SIG PM and SIG instrumentation will go at a later time due to scheduling conflicts. As with all of our Kubernetes meetings, the code of conduct is in effect, so please be excellent to each other. And everything you say during this meeting is being live streamed and recorded onto YouTube, so please be mindful of that. If you are not speaking, we're going to ask you to please double check that you are muted. And with that, Gareth, you've got 10 minutes. Take it away.
Okay, let me share my screen. Hopefully, folks can see a large blue screen with a Kubernetes logo. People are saying they can do. I will get on. So I'm going to talk about basically unit testing Kubernetes configuration. It turns out that collectively we've all written an awful lot of Kubernetes configs, whether in YAML or other flavors. And knowing not just knowing that they're going to apply correctly on Kubernetes, but knowing that they're adhering to policies that we set is sort of, I think, a problem lots of people start hitting once you have these large repos with lots of config. A number of people have come across the project Open Policy Agent, OPA. This is a number of different things, but I like to think of it as a library for building sort of policy tooling on. Most of that operates in an agent manner, Open Policy Agent. And if you think about a development lifecycle, you're often writing code or configuration locally. You often have some sort of continuous integration deployment systems, and you've got your clusters. Open Policy Agent, most of the use cases so far have been in that latter bit. They've been in the cluster. Authorization control or gatekeeping clusters. So there's a number of different places where this is already integrated into. Istio actually has an adapter that if you want to write policies around Istio manifests, you can do that in OPA in Istio. Ceph have a similar thing around storage. Gatekeeper is a project under the Open Policy Agent project, so one of the CNCF projects, specifically as an admission controller for Kubernetes. Again, all of these operate in a world where it's on the cluster protecting stuff. That's really good. If you haven't had a look at those use cases, you should do. I'm going to talk about something slightly different. I tend to obsess over developer tools and getting things happening earlier in the sort of cycle. And Conftest came about from me thinking about, I really like OPA. I have a thing for DSLs, and I really like the Rego policy language that we'll come on to some examples of. But I was like, but I want to use it locally. I want to use it like I would do a unit testing framework, and I want to put that in my continuous integration system to give me and teammate members fast feedback. So I had a bunch of time and hacked on Conftest ahead of Barcelona KubeCon. Did a talk about it there, talked to some people, and I've been hacking on it ever since. So this is really only since May time. More recently, a number of other people have come along. So there's now a number of other active contributors. The last few weeks have seen loads of new features and a few new releases. And what this at a simple level gives us is, well, take a Kubernetes configuration file, take any of your many Kubernetes config files. This one's written in YAML, but yours might be written in other things. Ultimately, they're going to compile down to the same data structure. Open Policy Agent allows us to write policies in this language, Rego language. So obviously, new programming language, new to lots of people. Like, what does that actually mean? So taking this policy, what we're saying here is, let's deny any input which is of kind deployment. So input is ultimately that data structure that we fed in. Well, deployment is the Kubernetes deployment. And we've also got this long string of, I don't want anything which has the runner's non-root to be true. And I've got a message there, just containers must not run as root. Again, that's just me saying, oh, when this policy like trips, this is the message I want to, this is the string I want to return back so we can see what's going on. And all Contest does is provides you with a really simple single Go binary, all packaged up, to run against those files. So Contest test, point it at your config files, point it at a directory of config files. Ultimately, you might use, you might be generating those files and you can pass them in as standard in. And we'll give you, ultimately, it's like a unit testing framework. We'll give you the messages back for policies that fail, and we'll give you status codes based on the failures. I'll say as well, like obviously this is useful, hopefully in the context of Kubernetes. There's an awful lot of Kubernetes configs. It's also really useful in the context of actually any arbitrary configuration. Contest isn't particular, neither is Open Policy Agent. So actually, if you've got arbitrary JSON documents, then, well, you can write policies against those. If you've got other INI files or YAML files or Q files or TOML files, we're adding more parsers all the time. INIs in master, Q came a few days ago. The idea here is a generic way of writing, ultimately, policy testing against configuration files. There's a load of examples in the repo, from simple to more complicated Kubernetes ones. Let's see a quick demo of that if I swap my screen. Hopefully I've got a terminal up in front of me. People are saying yes. So here's an example which is a bit more complicated than the one I showed a moment ago for Kubernetes. So here, actually, I'm starting to build up a library. Open Policy isn't a language like others. I can create my own little mini language. So here I'm importing a Kubernetes library. And rather than that sort of implementation specific parts and really getting into the weeds, I've created my own little DSL. Kubernetes is deployment. I'm a fan of the application labels, but actually getting people to add them can sometimes be tricky. A nice nudge would be writing a test to ensure you do so. So these are documented as part of the Kubernetes documentation. And I've written them all out in Rego. I say, well, deny things that are a deployment and don't have these labels. And if they do, again, a bit more complicated message, I'm actually grabbing the name of that deployment and saying, well, the name of the deployment must include the Kubernetes recommended deployments. I've got a number of files here that I can test against. I've got one with a deployment and a service. And that's flagging a number of problems in my deployment, which I could then go and fix. Very briefly, the policy itself is multiple files. I'm able to organize this with some naming conventions around the actual names of the rules. But I can split this up and ultimately share aspects of this across different projects. One more quick demo. One thing I found myself doing was wanting to test Helm charts. Now, obviously, you can just use Helm template and cat that in. That was too many things to remember. So there's now a Helm plugin. So you can do Helm plugin install from the Contest repo. That allows you to just simply write Helm conftest. That picks up all the right bits. So this is actually just the stable MySQL Helm chart. And I've added a policy directory. And here I'm just using the same tests that we saw previously. I've stuck to Kubernetes examples here, but again, like there are more examples in the repo of Terraform testing, some plans around Dockerfile testing as well. So, and anything else anyone comes up with, hopefully if it's structured data, Rego, Open Policy Agent, and Conftest, hopefully are useful ways of testing.
About 2 minutes left.
Perfect timing, because I have one slide, which simply says, if this sounds interesting, come and have a play with it. You can download it from GitHub or get involved if this sounds interesting. As of today as well, thanks to the Open Policy Agent folks, we've got a conf test channel on the Open Policy Agent Slack. So join us there as well.
All right, we have a few minutes for questions. I'm looking at the chat. Anyone have questions or want to chime in with a question on Zoom? Going once, going twice. All right, thank you, Gareth. We appreciate the demo. Okay, moving on. Guinevere is going to give us our release update.
Hi, everyone. I am here instead of Lachlan because he's on vacation, and I am the release lead shadow for one of them for 116. I'll keep this short and sweet. We are approaching enhancements freeze in the release cycle. That is the most important announcement I have. On Tuesday, July 30th, we will have enhancements freeze. Get in your caps, bring in your caps. This is the date when we decide these are the enhancements that are going into the release. Please make sure you have everything in. Tuesday is also the day that we're going to cut 116 alpha.2 pre-release. And there are no current patch releases scheduled for previous versions. That's it. Questions?
Any questions for release? Going once, going twice. All right, we're powering through today. Okay, SIG updates. We have one SIG going today. Like I said, SIG PM had to last minute cancel. Instrumentation will go next week. With that, we have Aaron Krickenberger. Mr. Beard, are you on?
Hi, everybody. I am Aaron of SIG Beard. Wait, let me rename myself. Sorry, I keep forgetting to do that. There we go, Aaron of SIG Beard. I'm just going to take all the time.
No, you only get 10 minutes.
Since I have a lot in it. So I'm going to share my screen. I am very open to interruptions or questions as we go through this. Okay, so it's the community update for SIG testing. Eventually, one day, I will run out of This Is Fine memes to share with you all, but our mascot continues to live on. This is sort of the state of testing within this community today. We have become the fire, and we feel like we are surrounded by a bunch of fun little puppies and dogs. So SIG testing is responsible for a lot of the infrastructure related to running tests and making test results actionable across the project. We don't write your tests for you. You know how your stuff works better than the small team that we are. But we want to empower you to be more effective with your tests. So I'm going to roll through a number of sub-projects that we do, and we'll go from there. So the first sub-project some of you may be aware of is Kind, or Kubernetes and Docker. So Kind now has support for IPv6, and as far as I know, is the first implementation of Kubernetes that is almost asterisk passing conformance. We have one test that's not quite working, and there's a PR out to fix that. But soon it will be the only IPv6 implementation of Kubernetes that's known to pass conformance, at least as far as we're aware of on this test grid that anybody can contribute results to. It's gotten just ridiculously faster. Ben the Elder and James Munnelly sort of optimize a lot for speed. So the builds are fully reproducible. It starts up faster. It's got better support for image side loading, and it's just a little bit more configurable. Looking ahead, we're still really aggressively figuring out the road to 1.0 for Kind, which means as much attention as it is getting and as much as everybody enjoys it, we do need to make sure that it doesn't necessarily support everybody's needs out of the gate, that we remain focused and on scope for what it takes to get Kind to 1.0, to a point where there would be less breaking changes and stuff afterwards. So the Kind repo, that's sigs.k8s.io/kind, will have all of this information available to you if you want to help out. So you even got a fun animated GIF on how to get started. They're looking to support more runtimes as well. So looking at things like Ignite and Podman. So documentation on how to more effectively use kind is always welcome. We're also looking to use kind across the project to run more end-to-end tests. At the moment, kind is run as sort of a pre-submit job on pull requests to Kubernetes as sort of a faster way of giving you feedback of your end-to-end tests. But we would love to run more than just the conformance test against kind. So if you want to help spread kind everywhere, make kind cover more things, gate more things, maybe help us get rid of some of the slower tests that we currently rely on, this is the issue to come check out. Next, Crowl. I think some of you have heard of Crowl. Prout is the thing that's like if this then that for the entire for GitHub and runs the CI for most of the project. It also supports reading information from other CI systems that some of you use, like Travis or Circle or Shippable, or if you're really in that position, Jenkins. Like, we will just sort of pay attention to the information that's posted to PRs. But we also support a lot of fun ways to run jobs against PRs. Steve Kuznetsov, and I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce the name, so just there's the GitHub username. I've spent a good chunk of time creating a brand new dashboard for Prout, which is sort of going to help us better understand at like a component level, at a the business metrics level, like how healthy is Prout itself. This is really useful to anybody out there who is running their own Prout installation. I know there are a number of you out there. OpenShift, JetStack, Kima project, so on and so forth. There are a couple Prout plugins some of you have seen. The one that just most recently merged is something written by Nikita, which will automatically apply a milestone to your pull request when it merges. I think people on the release team will be really happy about this, and people who are just out in the real world will be happy about this when they stumble upon a pull request in Google and they see that it's been merged. If they want to understand, but which release did this make it into, this will be taken care of by the bot going forward. We could definitely use some help if somebody wants to write some amazing scripting to go back and retroactively figure out for all of the pull requests that have merged what milestones those should be in. Totally happy to help you script that to apply that. We're trialing it on one repo, and eventually we'll look to have it rolled out on a bunch of repos. It's the sort of thing where you kind of configure it yourself. Next, Spyglass is the thing that shows results for your Prout jobs. So I'm clicking a link here that says Bazel is fun because I just love Bazel. And it's linking directly to an error that happens to be caused by Bazel. So you can now, if you're trying to figure out, or you're trying to tell somebody that their job has failed and why, you can link specifically to the log line by just sort of clicking that log line there, or that log line there, and sending that link to them. And it'll automatically unfold the skipped lines if it happens to be hiding somewhere down there, because our regular expression for highlighting problems isn't super smart. Some other things, Steve Kuznetsov sort of has made Prout a lot more interoperable with Bugzilla. We here on the Kubernetes project mostly care about how Prout interacts with GitHub and its issues and stuff, but it does interact with other systems. I know we have support for sort of Garrett as well, and Bugzilla. And we also sort of have beta support for Tecton pipelines being one of the that's in the if this then that is Prout. Prout, when it wants to kick off a job, can do so. What we sort of prefer here in the Kubernetes project is kicking off a job as a Kubernetes pod spec. But it in the battle days, it also used to be able to talk to a Jenkins and kick off a job by name. And it can also create build CRDs, if you're familiar with that from Knative. And it can also kick off Tecton pipelines. I'm calling it beta because it's still not super actively exercised within this project, and we feel like there are probably a number of bugs to work through, but it's getting there. Looking ahead, our priorities for Prout are to separate the config from the code, because Prout really has become this active code base that is used by a number of projects and communities out there, and we'd like to make sure that while it is still important that it works most effectively for this project, like for me personally, just trying to figure out what happened this last quarter, there are a lot of PRs to the config over here, not as many PRs to the code over here, and it'd be helpful to maybe separate those out. So there's an issue if you want to help us do that. We're also just this close to allowing people to trigger reruns on Prout. So if I were to go to Prout, I'm going to make the mistake of doing this live. So this is deck, right? This shows the status of all of the jobs that are currently running right now. I'm going to go down and find one that failed. I'm going to click the rerun button. I can't see the thing here. Okay, so the rerun button doesn't yet exist, but soon it will. And I will be able to click a button here and automatically trigger a job so that ideally people can stop asking us to, or the on-call person to run jobs for them. This is all in the name of better empowering self-service and empowering the community to help itself. Catherine Berry will be working on sort of remote spyglass lenses. So like I said, spyglass is the thing that displays your results. It's actually configured to display like lenses for different files. So what I was linking to earlier was the lens for log lines, but we also have lenses for JUnit files, lenses for code coverage. The catch is that all of those have to live in tree alongside the Prout code base, right? So here's like the JUnit lens, which shows me a little bit more about what we parsed out of JUnit. So much like Prout supports out-of-tree plugins using the external plugins mechanism where we talk to it via HTTP, we're looking to do the same thing with Spyglass so that we can sort of federate the development here. Finally, the only cap that we're aware of, but is not relevant to the release team's feature freeze at the moment, it was just sort of a really gnarly discussion, was a cap about enabling in-repo config. So the idea is those of you who are used to like Travis or Circle and just having like a .travis.yaml inside of your repo and like that way you can focus on that repo might not be used to the way this project operates, where we have this external repo over here where we have the config for all 185 repos across the project. And we do want to enable that like smaller, more intimate use case, but it's tangled up with a lot of the assumptions and expectations that we have about how to enforce conventions across the project, especially those that might require security. So Alvaro Limon is working on pushing forward on this. If you really want Prout to have like a .prout.yaml or something inside of your repo, if you're interested in making that happen, here's the KEP, and this is definitely the person to talk to about that. And then for help wanted, we have an Epic stock. If you want to sort of help us put together a roadmap, let's see, I'm seeing chat. I just want to make sure I'm not way over time. Okay, cool. So we have an Epic stock. You are welcome to sort of help us figure out how we should prioritize these, turn these into a roadmap. The most effective way to help turn this into a roadmap is to help us get people to work on these. But helping us understand what is most important, also a good way to help out. And then help us unit test Prout. This is one of our good first issues where we've sort of identified a number of Prout components and flags that need to be unit tested. And so we just got a nice checklist here that's prioritized. Test infra stuff in general, I will start to go faster because I've definitely been talking for more than 10 minutes. We have a utility that lets you run go test bench and turn that into JUnit XML results, which most of our tools understand. You saw me email Kubernetes dev a while ago about how Catherine sort of helped automate the test infra roll out of the release team using these three tools, which many of which are based on Prout job annotations. And you saw me talk about Sean Chase sort of using that to move some of those annotations into your job files so that, again, better self-service, you can sort of merge your changes a little bit faster. We've improved our docs greatly. You can click those things to go see them. We're looking to support better local testing of Prout jobs. So just sort of trying to jam as many things together as possible by using both kind and a number of Prout utilities together. You can actually sort of just spin up your own local instance of Prout-ish and run everything that you need to test out that your end-to-end Prout job works better locally. Expect to see more of that and a demo of that at the next SIG testing meeting when we've got that sorted out. Similar to the self-service thing, we're looking to break the one massive 5,000-ish line test grid config file up into many different files that are each owned by SIGs in much the same way that we do for jobs, so you can merge those changes faster. And we're looking to measure and display unit test code coverage for Kubernetes. I, much like Gareth, feel like the sooner we can get test results, the faster you can get them, the more effective they will be. And I feel like this is an area that the project is currently lacking. For help wanted, our triage tool works super great, right? Triage is go.kades.io/triage. It's actually driven by a Prout job that runs every 20 to 30 minutes or so, and there's a Python script that sort of parses out all of our test results and displays these things. The speed with which this dashboard updates is limited by the speed with which that job runs. It's written in Python right now. It could be written in Go and probably go significantly faster and help you identify that much sooner if your PR did actually fix the problem. Let's see. Some of you like to use our labels YAML thing to adjust labels across your repos. Again, we'd love to shard that up in the same way we've done with other files. And also, we are well aware that Python 2 is coming to the end of its life at the end of this year. Travis Clark has sort of helped convert some of the scripts from Python 2 to Python 3. If this is something you know how to do or care deeply about, totally come help us out. Finally, the Testing Commons subproject is the subproject that's sort of about how do we make testing frameworks that are easy to use to help you to sort of better write your tests. And so we're looking at this, and so a couple of things we've done here are to take the 40 or so images that are involved in Kubernetes end-to-end tests and really reduce that down to one image as much as possible. AGN host is something that's supposed to be host agnostic or agnost. And so that will really help reduce the surface area that's needed to support conformance. There's been a lot of work in untangling the massive E2E framework package into different things for easier vending. We really are getting to the point where people can vendor the E2E framework package to write their own end-to-end tests out of tree. And we're also looking to maybe find something other than the E2E framework to write better end-to-end tests faster. We sort of chose Ginkgo way back when, because it was kind of the only thing that existed. A number of BDD frameworks have since sort of evolved, and it may be that one of those looks better, or maybe there's something we could write for scratch that would help us out better. Help wanted, if you may be aware of the component config thing, which is sort of the effort to remove the use of the hundreds and hundreds of flags we use to configure our various Kubernetes components and turn those into API resources. The only working group that we're aligned with is WG-Kades Infra, which is all about taking all of the stuff I mentioned and running it in a Google Cloud project that's owned by the CNCF that all of you can help out with. At the moment, we are helping with the container image promoter, which some of you are using by pushing sub-project artifacts like container images into staging repos. And then this is responsible for pushing those to a place like kades.gcr.io. And we're also looking to enable community support for the test infra on-call role that is currently staffed by myself and a couple of my teammates. One more thing. We are, in fact, open sourcing TestGrid. I didn't quite have the plans laid down right before this presentation, but this would be the issue to come check out if you want to learn more about what our plans are, the order in which we're rolling this out, and how you could help us with this. I love TestGrid. It's amazing. There's nothing else out there like it. I'm really excited to see more of it. How you can contribute to this SIG. So we usually have met historically 1 p.m. Pacific weekly, but I'm currently suggesting that we rethink that to be a little more East Coast and European friendly. So I sent out a doodle to the SIG testing mailing list. It's also linked here. Please let us know what times work for you. We're looking to be a little bit more inclusive. We do have good first issues. And again, like I said, we don't really write your tests. We don't really troubleshoot your tests. So the tools that we recommend to sort of help identify what tests are maybe flakiest and you could have the largest impact for yourself and others on the project by fixing would be those that are identified by this dashboard, which shows the flakiest PR jobs, the flakiest tests for those PR jobs. And then the triage tool, which I pointed to earlier, which can use sort of regular expressions to filter out both the error message as well as the test name to figure out if it's just this test and this one job or so on and so forth. Finally, where to find us. Eric Feda, myself, Aaron Krikenberger, Steve Kuznetsov, and Timothy St. Clair are the chairs. Here's our homepage. Here are the Slack channels for all the sub-projects. Here's the mailing list. I'm done. I've talked so much. I'm so sorry.
Any questions for SIG testing?
Does it ever stop?
Everyone thank Aaron for only taking 10 of his Aaron minutes. Okay, any questions for SIG testing before we move on and close this out? Okay,
Thank you for that beautiful shirt, Aaron.
All right, some quick announcements. Don't forget about the API deprecations coming in 1.16. I've left that link there. Just a pro tip, those of you, I know it's only July, but you might want to start to pay attention about booking your KubeCon travel for hotels. SIG instrumentation, storage, docs, and the product security committee will be giving the updates next week, as I said before. Also, there's a call for help. If you want to host this meeting, that's exactly what I'm doing. Just basically read the agenda. Please ping and let me know. We always want to get new faces up here and give people a chance to do something for the community. Some shout outs for this week. What this is a channel on the Kubernetes Slack, #shoutouts. If you see someone going above and beyond the call of duty, feel free to just thank them in that channel, and we'll read that off during this community meeting. So Benjamin Elder would like to shout out again to Antonio Ohia. I hope I get that right. Thanks for his work. We finally have CI passing all conformance tests with an IPv6 kind cluster, and there's some links there for y'all to check out. Jun Yi would like to shout out to Senku An, Ian Choi, Jesang Myung, and Syoko Sun. Hope I got those right, for encouraging docs localization as an event host, a session speaker, or an attendee at a local community event at the Open Infrastructure and Cloud Native Days in Korea 2019. And lastly, Jason D. Tiberius would like to shout out to Tim Hawking for helping him troubleshoot and fixing a head-scratching permission issue related to the image promotion process. That's all we have on the agenda. Any last-minute announcements, gotchas, any? Going once, going twice, and 3 times. We'll give everyone 29 minutes back. Cheers to those of you that are at GopherCon and the Open Source Summit, and we'll see everyone next week. Thank you very much.
Happy Thursday, everybody.